Hello, I'm in Wildflower Gym because today I want to show you every single climbing technique that I know. Next to me is Tiba. Can you tell me something about this climbing gym?
Yes, of course. Here in the Netherlands we have a lot of commercial climbing gyms, and I as a professional climber was lacking a real training center. So that's why we built this training center where everything is basically based on getting better at climbing. So for all levels, but with training groups, with a really nice community of motivated people. So that's why we're here.
It's the perfect place for me to show every single technique that I know. Comment below if I forgot any of the techniques or if there's something you want to know more about. I'll add some more information in the description with links to other videos from other channels for some more details. But if that's not enough, let me know and I'll get back to you. First of all, we're going to look at the techniques that manipulate your center of gravity. I think this is the most fundamental part of climbing, and it's the one you should learn about first. The back step is when you turn in to get your center of gravity closer to the wall. In this case, you're standing on the outside of one of your feet. The drop knee is a more extreme version of this, and it involves turning in so far that your knee points down. The outside flag is when your outside leg sticks in front of you and keeps you in balance that way. The back flag is when the other leg sticks behind you to keep you in balance. And when that same leg sticks in front of you, then it is called an inside flag. And it's great to keep you in balance as well. The inside figure 4 is a way to get a little bit higher by wrapping your leg on top of your arm.
So when you're doing a figure 4, get your one leg over your hand, push with your other on the wall to get your hips as high as possible.
The outside figure 4 is very similar, except you wrap your other leg on top of your arm, and that's a great way to reach sideways. The arm flag is anytime you shift your center of gravity around by moving your arm, in this case to rock over my front foot. Perching is anytime you sit on top of your heel while the other leg is extended. It's a great way to rest. And when both of your legs are bent and you sit on both of your heels at the same time, then it's called frogging. The scorpion is a way to stay relatively close to the wall in a dynamic move. You let your legs swing back and that will actually keep your body relatively close to the wall. The janja is very similar except for movements that are sideways, and it works much better if you have long blonde hair. The Peter Pan is another way to control the swing in a dynamic move, and Mercedes Pohlmeier does a great job of explaining it. So make sure you check out the description to see her video as well as other videos explaining the techniques in this list. Next, you should learn about foot techniques. There's all kinds of things you can do with your feet in order to climb better. So we're talking about foot techniques, but you should know that it's more like concepts, because having a heel hook with a straight leg is totally different than from having a heel hook with a bent leg. So consider them concepts and realize that you need to apply them differently in different situations. The inside edge is when you stand on the inside of your climbing shoe. As you stand, most of the pressure will be on your big toe. The outside edge is quite similar, except you will stand on the outside of your climbing shoe. But yet again, most of the force will be on your big toe. Smearing is when you lower your heel so that you increase the amount of surface area on the foothold.
Stand as far away from the wall as possible, so you have more room to lean in. So the angle actually gets more positive when you're standing on the edge of the volume instead of close to the wall.
The Alpine knee is anytime you use your knee and push on a foothold. For some reason this technique is frowned upon in the climbing community. The heel hook is anytime you use your heel on a foothold, often to pull in or to push up.
So what you do is you get your heel behind the hold and then you actually turn it to the wall and down. So you can really get your knee really high, get your knee a bit over your foot and get your hips as high as possible so that you can make use of your leg power instead of your arm power.
A toe hook is when you stick the top of your foot behind a climbing hold in order to stick to position. This is often with a straight leg. A bat hang is when you hang upside down using the rubber on the top of your shoe, often with 2 feet. A bicycle is when you push with one foot and pull with the other, so you combine a toe hook with a pushing movement. A heel-toe cam is an overlook technique where you jam your foot between 2 holds. A frog pinch is when you squeeze with both of your feet on a vertical hold. The knee bar is a great position where you try to jam your thigh behind the hole. If done well, then you can actually let go of both of your arms, but unfortunately, That's not always the case. Hand techniques are of course very big in climbing. There's so many ways to hold a climbing hold, and knowing about them will really help you. Know that I've only included face climbing techniques. So there's no ice climbing, no alpine climbing, and no crack climbing techniques in this list. In the 3-finger drag, you use 3 fingers in the most open position possible. In the open crimp, you add the pinky, but still the hand is as open as possible. In the half crimp, the knuckle is at the same height as the fingertip. In the closed crimp, the thumb is added on top of the fingertip for more power. And in a full crimp, the knuckle is way above the fingertip, causing the finger to hyperextend. Often the thumb is added as well. The 2-finger pocket could either be with the middle 2 fingers, with the front 2 fingers, or with the back 2 fingers. It doesn't matter, as long as you add 2 fingers and keep your hands open. Stacked fingers is any time you stack your fingers in order to fit more fingers into the pocket. A quarter crimp is a really weird technique where your hand is in an open position but you add your thumb anyway to get a little bit more leverage. The mono is when you can only fit 1 finger into the pocket. When you close down on the mono with your thumb, it's called the closed mono, and this technique is very injury prone. Be careful. The half crimp can be done with the front 3 fingers or with the back 3 fingers as well. Just make sure that the knuckle is at the same height as the fingertip. The pinch is when you grab a hold by squeezing it between your thumb and your fingers. The Thumbercling is when you use your thumb to press down on the hold. This is a great technique to use on a slab. The palm down is when you press down on a climbing hold. Usually your fingers will point out. The meat hook is when you wrap your hand all the way around the climbing hold. You can also wrap your hands around the volume. Then there's positions in climbing. There's all kinds of different positions that you can get into that will help you get to the next move. In the side pull position, you will pull inwards with your arm and press in the opposite direction with your feet. A more extreme version of this is the layback. This is often performed in a crack, on an arête, or on a big feature like on this one. The Gaston is essentially the opposite of the side pull. You will press outwards with your arm and keep the position in that way. A double Gaston is often called an elevator door. You will press outwards with both of your arms at the same time. The undercling is when you push up with the feet and press down with one or both of your arms. Compression is any time you use your hands and feet to pull inwards and create compression in order to keep the position in that way. Inverted is any time your feet are above the body. This is the position you need in order to climb feet first. Outwards facing is any time you face away from the wall, like in this scene right here or in the famous Mission Impossible scene. If you have an undercling position with your elbow pointed out, then this position is called the Gastondercling. The lock off is when you bend your arm to pull in the wall and up in order to reach for the next hold. Stemming is any time you press outwards with your feet in order to keep the position. This is a great time to shake your hands and rest. So the chin is a really weird technique. I'm not going to show it, but apparently that's when you put your chin on a hold. When you're on a slab, then you can shake your hands like on a no hands rest. I'm not going to show it because it's absolutely ridiculous, but apparently it does exist. And then of course the biggest part of climbing is movement. Matching feet is when you put one foot on the same hold as the other, often to switch feet. You can do the same with your hands, putting your hands on the same hold in order to switch. When you switch one finger at a time on a climbing hold, this is called the piano match and switch. The Houdini is a very fancy technique where you let go of the hold and quickly grab it with the other hand before you have time to fall. The hand-foot match is whenever you put your foot on the same hold as your hand in order to switch. This can be done on a slab or in an overhang, it doesn't matter. The hand flip is when you pull in one direction and then quickly flip direction so you can pull in the other. The hand cross can be done either over or under the other arm. A very extreme version of the hand cross under is called the rose move, and this is a very fancy technique that is often done in World Cups. The foot cross can be done either in front or behind the other foot. The Good Samaritan is often done by people who aren't flexible. They can pull on their leg in order to reach the next hold. The knee press is when you press down on your knee in order to stand up a little bit more easily. The rock over is when you pull on your foot and get your center of gravity all the way over onto your leading foot. The cut loose is when you let go of your feet on the climbing wall and you hang only on your arms, and when you climb using only your arms, this is called campusing. T-Rex turtle roll is the most important technique. For indoor boulderers, this will help you prevent injuries. Mantling is anytime you get on top of a ledge or top out a boulder, and a famous technique in order to top out a boulder is called the beached whale. And then the most complicated part of movement are dynos, because dynamic movements really evolved over time and they are not standardized yet. A dyno is when you jump, lose all contact with the wall and then grab the next hold with both your hands. You can also one-arm dyno and grab the next hold with one arm. The double clutch is when you grab two different holds or the same hold with two different hand techniques at the same time. The double dyno is when you move from one hold onto the next. And the pedal dyno is a more extreme version of this, where you keep moving up and up. This can be a triple or a quadruple dyno, like in this case. In a step-up dyno, you try to jump a little bit higher by getting your foot up and then jumping again. Another way to jump a little bit higher is by creating momentum. One of the ways to do this is by swinging with your hips. You can also swing with your arm in order to jump a little bit higher. This is similar to throwing a disc. The pogo is when you create momentum using your leg. This is also called a moon kick. The run and jump is when you reach the next hold by running and then obviously jumping. A similar technique is the swing and jump, when you swing from a hold and then jump in the air in order to latch on to the next hold. The dead point is a dynamic move where you go just high enough in order to grab the next hold. When done correctly, you will grab the next hold while you're not moving up or down at all. Instead, you will stick the move just when you're suspended in mid-air. So the dead point requires some momentum to get to the next one, but you don't go any further than that. And there's several ways of creating momentum. Of course, you can use your legs, but you can also swing with the hips, you can swing with the arm, you can swing with the leg, and you can even use your head to headbutt. All the techniques in this video are external techniques, so these are techniques that you can see as an outsider. But the more I learn about climbing, the more I feel like it's really about internal techniques, which means mental skills and knowing which muscles to activate. If you want to learn more about mental skills, then here are some videos that I made on the topic. Tiba, thank you so much for showing the techniques. You mentioned something about coaching.
Yes, so 4 times a week we have a climbing technique training where you can really learn how to implement these techniques in your climbing so that you can actually use them as well as possible.